What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Mr. Cheap Sense, rocking it old school, wife beater on. I've been chilling today. I ain't been doing much. Before I go any further with this video, if you're not a fan of me talking about personal things and stuff to that nature, you might want to exit right now, because this is not a regular video. Yes, I am going to be talking about fragrances, but I am also going to be throwing in a little bit of personal stuff here and there. So if you're not a fan of me talking about personal things, like somebody mentioned to me one time before, hey man, just get to the reviews, we don't care about all that, what you ate and all of that, that's fine and dandy. Warning ahead of time, if you don't want to hear that kind of stuff in this particular video, you might want to click off of this one and go to somebody else's channel. So with that being said, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, make sure you do that. Make sure you ring the bell for notifications. Icon will open up above the bell. Hit all so you get all content uploaded by me through this channel. Like the video, thumbs up, share the video, and be active in the comment section. I know as of lately I haven't been responding to a lot of comments in the comment section, but it is still good to get that interaction. So when I do have free time, because I'm basically now working as long as my boss will allow me, 6 days a week. I work Monday through Friday. We alternate every other Saturday, but since I've started my new job, I told them I don't care. We're only open from 8 to 1. I want to be here every Saturday you allow me to be. And if they open on Sunday, I'd be willing to do that also. I don't care. So it just is what it is. Now, this video, it's been a lot of this talk going around lately about the unoriginality of fragrance houses or companies in general and how uninspiring they are. One company may come out with something, the next company just copies what the other company did. If it's something that was popular, like a blue fragrance or something like that, and then another company will copy that company, and so on and so forth. So after a while, if you're a person who doesn't go out and sample fragrances before you purchase, you may end up with a collection full of the same either type smelling fragrances or something in the same category. And I know a lot of people, especially me, I'm not interested in having a bunch of fragrances that smell the same. That's to me redundant, and it's a waste of money. So this video is just to show people who may not be fully aware of what's going on in the fragrance community, and when it comes to fragrances and fragrance houses, and how some fragrances, the more inexpensive ones, smell like or copy the expensive ones, and vice versa. I don't know what fragrance came out first, what house did what, but I pulled out a bunch of fragrances from my personal collection that smell similar to each other. Some of these I have done reviews on before and have stated that they smell like this and that. And that's another point I want to touch on also. I know Trey talked about it in a video not too long ago, and me and him hold discussion with each other all the time. And it's just a conclusion. A lot of these fragrance companies need to step up their game. Even the cheapies are doing a better job than most of the expensive fragrance companies, which is why I don't have a problem with cheapies. I just personally didn't want to have a bunch of cheapies in my collection, just for the sake of if somebody comes in and looks at my collection, in which I know a lot of people aren't gonna know what you're wearing when you have it on. It's not like a bunch of people are going, I walk outside the door and somebody gonna say, oh, you got on Blue Day Chanel, or you got on, you know, a lot of people aren't even gonna know what you're wearing. They're just gonna think that you smell great. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So, first off, this is one of the most highly sold and highly popular fragrances on the market, as far as I know, and as far as how long it's been out. Now, I'm not talking about Creed Aventus and nothing like that. This has been around for a long time. Performance is an issue. I don't know about how it used to perform back in the day, but I've worn this a time or two, and the performance isn't that great, but it does smell pretty decent. I like the alternative to this one better, to be honest with you, because it has a slight twist on it. It's a little spicy, but this one is from Giorgio Armani. This is Acqua di Gio. And this is a little small one that somebody sent me a while back. But the alternative to it, and I'm pretty sure you already know what it is Perry Ellis 360 Red. And I've heard a lot of other people say that they prefer this over this, especially for the price. With this fragrance being out as long as it has, you would think that the price would have came down more, but it really hasn't that much. You can pick up 100 ml of this, maybe bigger, for like 19, 20 bucks. The performance on this is a lot better than the original, in my opinion. Now, I can't speak, like I said, on the older version of Acqua di Gio, but this particular one, this outlasts it. And to me, that spicy twist to it gives it something different, but I like it. So that's my first choice. Now, I'm not a big fan of the alternative, but the original I like a lot. It just doesn't perform well either, which is one reason why I would much rather have an alternative to this versus buying this one. But luckily, a subscriber was generous enough to gift me this one, and it is from the house of Dior. It is Dior Homme Cologne. And I'm sorry about it's bright, but this is, I think this is also discontinued, if I'm not mistaken. If it's not, excuse my misinformation. But this one is not technically a clone of it, but it does have a similar vibe to it. And I have another one that could be thrown in, but I smell this one and it smells closer to me. It's Jimmy Choo Man Ice. It gives me the exact same kind of lemony type vibe. So I would much rather go with the Jimmy Choo Man Ice. It's a little less expensive than the Dior. Performance is not too bad on this one. This one it's not that good. And when you're talking price, would you rather pay what you're going to pay for this, which is what, between the 70, 60, 70, 80 and up mark? Or would you rather spend what, like 25, 30, maybe $40 for something like this, and maybe have to reapply after a few hours, versus getting a couple hours out of this and being, you know what I'm saying, butthurt because you spent so much money for it? I would much rather go with this one. But that's just me. Now, one I'm not really too fond of, honestly, and I actually sent my partial bottle to Trey because I got a bigger bottle, but it is Paco Rabanne's 1 Million. And I'm okay with the scent. It's just not one of my favorite scents. There can be something a little off-putting about it. Definitely don't like the atomizer on this because it shot out 2 squirts straight out like a stream, like a water hose. It smells okay. Not really a big fan, but I have it. Now, an inexpensive alternative to it, in which I was kind of disappointed. I've seen this fragrance when this particular house was popping, and I didn't buy this one because I got the alternative, which is Club de Nuit Intense Man, but this is Club de Nuit Man, and it smells almost like 95% identical to 1 Million by Paco Rabanne. This one you're gonna spend what, like 20, 25 bucks versus what you're gonna pay for this one, like what, 40 something, 50, 60 bucks, depending on where you're getting it from. You may be able to find it for like $29.99 somewhere, but it's just depending. It's just uninspiring, man. Like, you just got too many fragrances out here that smell the same. Somebody's copying this company or house, and it's just a bunch of redundant stuff. But I applaud some of these houses for making some of these fragrances, because there are people out there who can't afford to go out and buy the originals, which are in most cases wildly out of some people's price range. And I know some people are gonna say, oh well, anybody can afford anything if they save up for it. I'm just saying in general, I understand we can all save up for something and wait, but in most cases, who wants to wait? Like, sometimes we just want something now, and if we can find something that's cheap enough, we're gonna go for it. Now, what I got to my right here, lastly, I'm gonna save for last, because I actually found I got both of these today. One of them I've seen before, and I didn't want to really dabble into the particular one that I found today. The other one I have wanted, I had it before, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. Now, a popular one in my book I like a lot, and I have hyped it up a little bit back when I first got it. And it is from the house of, well, I'm going to show you the original first. The original, I love it to death. Some people don't like it because of the sweetness of it, but it is Chanel Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme. Now, I know a lot of people like the Edition Blanche and all that. I don't have all of that. This is what I have. Now, I did have the original Allure Homme Sport, and I think I traded it with somebody for something. I can't remember what it was, but I did get this one from a retail store, and it was basically a good deal, because I got another fragrance that's in this list also with it. But the alternative to this, which is a very nice alternative to this one, if you don't want to pay this kind of price for it, Mandarina Duck Black. It's not 100% identical to Chanel Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme, but it does give that similar vibe. It still has that same kind of sweetness. The performance on this off of my skin is pretty good. I can't complain about it at all. I have had people ask me in the comment section or message me and ask me about this one, and you can pick this up easily for like 20 something bucks, I believe, or 20 bucks, like Fragrance Net or Fragrance X or whatever website you want to use. It's pretty good in my opinion. Another one that I kind of hyped up, I actually wanted to get my nose on this particular fragrance, and once again, a subscriber sent me a partial that they had, and I actually like it a lot. This is a reformulation, and it is CH Men by Carolina Herrera. And the alternative to this fragrance, I have hyped this one to high heaven when I first got it. I think I ordered this one from Fragrance X, and it was like maybe 20 to 25 bucks, and it's Bentley Momentum Intense. Very nice fragrance. This one, to me, I would put at about, it's about 95. It's about 95% accurate. If you want an alternative to CH Men, then pick up Bentley Momentum Intense. Now, the next one I've been looking for because of the price. I knew I was more than likely not going to be willing to spend the kind of money that they were asking for this fragrance. So I was searching everywhere. I found one fragrance by Perry Ellis that it wasn't that close. It was maybe 80% accurate. Performance wasn't that great. I've had a few other clones, even one from, I think, the Dollar Tree, and it didn't last long at all. Maybe the first spray that you spray, it smelled identical to it, but then like seconds later, it was completely gone. But it is from the house of Chanel, and it's Blue de Chanel, one of the most popular fragrances. This also was gifted to me, a partial, as you can see. I've worn it maybe once or twice. It's not that much in here. It's enough to get me through for a little while because I don't wear the same fragrances over and over and over. But very nice fragrance, but very expensive. Even now, after it's been out for a while. Now, I personally don't call this a clone of Blue de Chanel, because to me, it really doesn't smell the same. It just gives off that similar Ambroxan type vibe, but the smell, the scent profile is not the same. And it's from the house of Missoni. Very nice fragrance. This is the other fragrance I picked up when I got Chanel Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme. I actually was going to get Chanel the Egoiste, which I should have got instead of this, but I like this too, but I didn't. Hopefully sometime soon I can get my hands on a bottle of Egoiste. But this, to me, I've heard people say it's a clone of Blue de Chanel. To me, it's not a clone of Blue de Chanel. It doesn't even smell the same at all. It just gives off that same Ambroxan type vibe that you get. Now, the bottle is nice. It is a magnetic cap. You can hold it, but you don't want to hold it like that. That's why I have my hand underneath it. It does have the same magnetic cap as the Blue de Chanel, although the Chanel one is a little stronger. But that's just what most say about this particular fragrance. I don't get the Blue de Chanel vibe, but it just is what it is. I threw it in here anyway. Last but not least, this is so obvious that the fragrance that I picked up, the more inexpensive one I picked up, smells similar to, in which I honestly think it smells more like another fragrance I'm going to mention. But now I've had this fragrance before, but I didn't pay attention to what it was, and I didn't know that there was different variations. Although the one I had, even though it was a mild deodorant version, it still smelled the same. It just didn't last as long. And it's from the house of Davidoff. It's Cool Water. My boy Trey likes to add that S on the end and say Cool Waters, but it's Cool Water. And the fragrance that I was in TJ Maxx, and I was like, oh man, let me check this out, man, because I keep seeing different bottles laying around of this fragrance. And you know that when it comes to TJ Maxx and places like that, Marshalls, they always have those, I call them TJ Maxx specials. This is one I picked up, and I didn't pay any attention to the bottle profile until after I got home. But this one is called Victory Pour Homme, and I guess this is by Alta Moda, M-O-D-A, Moda, whatever you want to call it. But this is what the bottle looks like. Now I'm going to hold this bottle up and tell me that you don't see the similarity in this. Now the bottle's going to look different, but the coloration and some of the profile of it looks the same. tell me that it wasn't a blatant copy of this fragrance. Look at this. Same color, just the bottles are different shape. Look at the tops. This one has a gray stripe around it, but it's mimicking it. I mean, it's blatant that this is a clone. This was $12.99 for this one. This one was a little bit more expensive. I think this one was more along the lines of, this is the 4.2, 125 ml. I think this one was more like 29, I think. No. Yeah, it was close to $30. So, blatant that these supposed to be a copy. Now, with this one, I honestly get more aspen than cool water, even though it does have the same vibe. I am going to spray this just so I can get a better atomizer. Kind of sucks, but see, with the Victory one, it's a little more sweet. And I'm not talking about like, I'm not talking about sweet like candy or syrupy sweet. That same sweetness that you get from like aspen, or if you got Trace Nuit, if you smell that before, the sweetness in that, if you tone that down some, that's what you get from this. It's almost barbershop-y without the barbershop vibe. You know, like it's almost like something that a barber would put in his alcohol or spray to spray on you after he's, you know, shaved you or cut you up. The cool water is more aquatic without that sweetness added to it. So I'm going to say that this one leans more towards aspen, but it's just obvious what they were trying to do. So, I mean, the whole point of this video is, oh, I got one more. So my most recent acquisition is this Creed Aventus, and I have many clones of this fragrance, to be honest with you, because I do have Insurrection Pure 2. I have variations from Sensual Obsessions. I have Club de Nuit Intense Man. I have Bergamot and Musk by Cremo, in which I don't think that's close enough. I have one by Alt Fragrances. I also have the Aventus by the Replica Company. And I just grabbed this one because it was in close proximity. And it does have that Creed Aventus vibe. I've heard a few people say that it's not close enough. To me, it has that same vibe. You can tell that the quality is different though. But for some people, we're not going to go out and spend what you're going to pay for this versus $20 for something like this, and you may have to reapply. Or some other clone company that probably makes something and it lasts, you know, just as long. Because I've heard some of the performance on the newer Creeds aren't that good. And I've worn this one once. I got pretty decent performance out of it. It's not bad. It's just not the best. But that's just, you know, the thing in a nutshell. Like, we're not complaining about, me personally anyway, the amount of clones or copies out there. If these fragrance companies like Chanel and Creed and what else, 1 Million, and, you know, Dior and Aqua di Gio and all the, Giorgio Armani, if they're gonna make fragrances and continue to make fragrances and bring out new stuff, come out with something more new, fresh, and innovative. Don't just keep coming up with the same stuff. And, you know, I understand somewhat about pricing, and, you know, you gotta make up the cost for the ingredients being used and stuff like that. Like, oud is expensive and all of that. I get it. The reason why there are so many clones and clone houses out here and companies that are just copying all of these popular fragrances is because of people who don't want to spend that type of money for fragrances. What about us? If somebody don't want to spend $250, $300, $400 for a bottle of Creed Aventus, then why not go with the alternative for $20? Insurrection Pure 2, $20. You know, Kevin Holt over at Central Obsessions can get you his version of Creed Aventus for, you know, whatever his prices are, that are definitely more inexpensive than something like this. All of the crying and the bickering and arguing over clone houses is just so unnecessary. If you don't like clones and clone houses, don't deal with them. Just continue to buy your expensive fragrances and just leave everybody alone. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not offended because people are going out and buying, you know, all this expensive stuff. It doesn't bother me not one bit, because ain't none of that money coming out of my pocket. So why should I care? But you got people, the fragcom police, as I like to call them, that's worrying about what everybody else is doing. Whether somebody's got their hand out to a fragrance company, or whether somebody's begging for something, or you worried about what somebody else is doing on their own channel. Like, we all need to be grown up about all of this stuff. It's just too much nonsense going on. And, you know, you get upset when somebody responds back to certain videos and stuff like that, or somebody comments in the comment section and, you know, disagrees with you on a fragrance. Like, we're all given the right to voice our opinion. Don't take everything to heart. The only thing that I take to heart is when somebody lie on me or tell the untruth. Then I'll step out. But as far as like all of this extra stuff going on, all this nonsense, I don't care to entertain any of that stuff. I say what I had to say, and I keep it moving. These fragrance houses, the more inexpensive ones, are, in my book, very good fragrance companies. Perry Ellis does a great job. They just don't get a lot of hype because they're Perry Ellis. Armoff started falling off a little bit for a while. I'm not sure what they got going on now, because I don't have many fragrances from them anymore. I do have Trace Nuit, El Celio. I do have a clone of Dior Sauvage I could have pulled out. So I'm just saying, y'all, you know, clone houses aren't all bad. I know people don't like clone houses just because of, you know, it's taken away from money that the original clone houses could be making. Well, if those original clone houses would come down on their prices to make it more affordable for people, for everybody, then you wouldn't have a lot of these clone houses out here. It's like Brand Jordan. People are out here robbing and killing, and it's not just because people can't afford them. Most of the time it's because people are being lazy and just don't want to spend their own money to go get them. And I feel like if that's the issue with brand Jordan and people getting robbed all the time for their new Jordans and stuff like that, then I feel like Jordan should at least make his shoes more accessible for people who don't have that kind of money. Or at least put out a brand of shoe with his logo on it that he can make for a cheap price, in which all shoes are pretty much made cheap, but you know, something that he can put out for, you know, maybe 60 bucks, 50 bucks, 70 bucks. It doesn't have to be his, you know, stuff that he's done in the past, but, you know, put out a brand of something that is more inexpensive that people can at least have the logo on the shoe and it be real brand Jordan and not have to worry about people robbing you for your shoe. But that's just my opinion. You know, I know somebody is not going to agree with everything I say, and that's fine too. It just is what it is, though. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If it didn't make sense to you, what I was talking about, then I don't know what else to tell you. I tried to do the best I could with pulling these fragrances out. The moral of the story is, fragrance companies, do us all a favor. Start doing some original stuff. Stop copying each other. Technically, a lot of these bigger name companies can be considered clone houses, especially if they make a fragrance that replicas something that was out before them. So if you're gonna get mad at the clone houses, you might as well get mad at the original houses also. So with that being said, I'm out of here, y'all. Here is, I'm gonna just grab two. To smelling great. Peace.